time you got the time. Oh yes, join the flag. You want Councillor Kelly and the leader? Is the leader joining us? And right, can I just have we got Councillor Johnson who's leading the Ross right?
That's correct.
Right. Can I just explain to colleagues why this is on the agenda here now? Because if this committee is going to undertake any serious budget scrutiny, it's got to be tonight or something, first half of tonight. Because as we all know, the Council's in the middle of 18 months through a 3-year financial plan, am I correct? Thank you. The budget headlines, or whatever passes for budget headlines these days, will come out on expense in December for decision for consultation.
Scheduled for November.
Oh, yes, but in my 14 years on the council, it's never once been on time. If we get
we have budget proposals a lot earlier. Sooner I'll size the capital portfolio and make sure that it's come out a lot earlier.
Excellent, good. So therefore, if we're going to have influence on the budget setting process, we must do tonight. So the leading spending portfolios are with us. Councillor Harper, who can't be here. Councillor Thomas, do you want to introduce the papers before this meeting tonight?
Well, it's not my report, Chairman. It's the Scrutiny Office's report, sort of request of this committee to bring the proposals which have already been tabled last year.
Do you want to make any comments to it?
No, just as highlighted to the committee that these figures have been there for some time now, and we go into the next rounds of budget setting, obviously for next year. And these figures, of course, will be tinkered with slightly, no doubt, as priorities change and members want to perhaps change things around, but by and large they'll probably stay the same. That's the plan.
Right. So does that mean I've got all this question? Does that mean you're ruling out council tax freeze?
I wouldn't say we're ruling one out because, of course, the government may step in and give us some help like they did last year, quite surprisingly, actually. But the medium-term financial strategy is for a 2.5% increase next year and the year after in council tax.
So do you think it's a cop-out not to go for another council tax freeze?
I would like to cut tax. I would like to freeze it or cut it. But the reality is, Chairman, when we are dealing with the biggest cuts in modern history, that the revenue is such that we will have to increase council tax going forward. That's the plan. If we want to cut and have a freeze alone is going to cost us £4 million. So, if we look at
Which could be found, it could be found if there was a political
Chairman, I'm sure, and that's what I'm here for now. If you and your committee would like to recommend where that £4 million is cut from, then we can consider that.
Yeah, okay, we may well get some suggestions from colleagues as the evening progresses. But how confident are you of the Barnet savings?
Well, it's an appendix to the report, Chairman. Of course, there's a few factors to Barnet. There's the outsourcing programmes which are going on as we speak, and what I feel is that the proposals that are coming in, being drawn up at the moment, will actually meet or exceed the savings targets that we've set out. So that's one side. All the other sort of little schemes, if you like, for instance, transport, legal, all that sort of thing, they're on track, and you've got the table that shows how much those schemes have cost, and then you've got then how much they are set to save either this year or going forward. So confident actually. And actually, Chairman, last year we had £30 million worth of cuts in the budget. We achieved that. So I think that gives a good track record when it comes to our figures.
So you're pretty confident of the Barnet savings?
I am.
Excellent. Talk about fees and charges. What scope in the budget will there be for raising of fees and charges?
There's no limit, is there, Chairman, as you know?
Indeed. So there will be rises in fees and charges across the board.
We haven't set any increases in addition to the ones that have already gone through. The services are proposing to put that forward. That will come in November, but the fees and charges as detailed in the scheme will remain. We're not looking to tinker with those.
What about inflation rises for fees and charges?
No, we don't have a policy of increasing fees and charges by inflation. They're quite specific.
And that will include parking, will it?
That will include parking.
Okay, could you, I think there's a line in the budget for 150,000, is it, increase revenue by using cameras for traffic enforcement, Karen? 130,000. Is that going ahead?
That's the yellow box enforcement, if I...
And no right turns, no left turns, and camera enforcement. So camera enforcement for traffic offences is going ahead.
For yellow boxes, not for parking.
Not what it says in the budget, but the yellow boxes for left turn, no left turns, no right turns.
As band turns and instruction of yellow box junctions.
So that's going ahead. Okay? And the cameras are in place to deal with the time. Fine. Could you tell us now, Dr., the impact on the budget changes in council tax benefit?
That's detailed in the report in Cabinet resources a while back. We got consultations, £4 million, Chairman. So we're currently consulting on how best to plug that gap, and there's all sorts of ways we can do it. So we're taking into account.
And where's your thinking going?
So, well, I'll wait to see what the consultation
says. Where's your thinking going?
Well, I have an open mind, Chairman.
You've just asked us to suggest 4 million of savings to increase council tax, and you're telling me there's another 4 million of cost because of changes to council tax benefit. So you must know how you're thinking of plugging that gap.
Well, I'll try and help you in terms of the consultation. There were a few methods of for instance, ending certain discounts.
But not single persons.
No, not single persons at discount, and obviously the pensions and all the rest of it, and then there's an element of collecting some councils that there are a lot of people out there at the moment who don't pay any council tax whatsoever, and it's assessing are there people out there who actually could afford to pay some. So I think we've got a few elements, and until actually we're still working on the figures of this. To make sure that any scheme is sensitively priced, because what we don't want to do is go out there with a scheme and end up with a shortfall. So whilst the consultation is ongoing, we're still looking at our figures and measuring our estimates.
But 4 million we've got to find, that will be found within the council tax budget. It won't be found from further cuts in other services.
That's what we're trying to do, is to avoid this spreading to other services.
Right, okay, also that. Councillor Rams, I think, is gone. How has the savings been delivered following the closure of Barnet Library?
The revenue savings have, but obviously the capital savings haven't, because we haven't sold the building. So yes, the revenue savings have come in because the library is now closed.
So why did we turn the electricity off? Sorry, I don't understand how, you're saying there are no ongoing revenue costs from Barnet Library, and yet it's lit up like a Christmas tree.
Well, at the moment, there are people in there with running up the energy. Fine, okay, that's a very small cost in terms of the whole library. The librarians and the staff in there have now been taken out, and those are the biggest costs, Chairman, as you know.
Security.
Can I just make one comment? Of course, the camera had to be left on in order to leave the burglar alarm on. Which will be an important piece of evidence in the ensuing August.
Okay. There are endless reforms going around on housing policy. Are these having any budgetary effects?
The housing revenue account is ring-fenced anyway, so no. There will be some headroom within the housing revenue account to spend actually some extra money on
council house rents.
There will be. We could increase the rents. Actually, there is currently a formula devised by the last government to bring up rents closer to the market rates. I think it's 80% of the rate or something like that. The leader may know more about this because it's last portfolio. But there is a policy to bring rents up more in line with market rates, obviously with a discount of some sort. But that is the level of discount is what's up for debate.
I believe that London Borough of Bromley pursued or charging an admin fee, I think £10 on Freedom Pass issue. Have we considered that?
We've not considered that, but you are aware of considering, are we considering the £10 for the blue badge, £10 for the year pass?
But is it something we should consider on, I'm not sure the legal position is one we were exploring it, an admin fee to cover the admin issue of the Freedom Passes.
I'm just being advised, we're not aware that anybody actually introducing it, so they may have gone up for consultation, Chairman, but nobody's introduced it.
Right, okay.
But certainly, we can take this back. Certainly, the cabinet member can take that into account when we table the budget in November.
Does the council investigate the balances held by voluntary groups? Many voluntary groups, some are grant aid or contractual relationships with the council or whatever. Do we have accurate figures for what balances some of these voluntary groups are sitting on?
I'm pretty sure if they came to us looking for grants, we would ask what funding they've got.
But many of them have
Councillor Roger put that up.
contractual relationships with the council rather than grant aid relationships.
I'm going to reiterate the comment that's been made by Councillor Thomas. I mean, we would ask what reserves they have at the time at which we consider whether they're entitled to any sum of money from the relevant pot. I can't say any more than that. If you want individual organisations,
and where are we on school balances? What is the current level of school balances, which was about 10 or 12 million, wasn't it, Mr. Hughes? Level of school balances?
There's some quite healthy school balances. The last time this was reported to us, about 11 million or something out there in school balance. It could be even more, but we can bring that figure to you. But Chairman, what would you like to do with the school balances we can't just grab? But we can, in terms of asking schools to work with us on certain issues.
I'm well aware we can't just grab, but that has been public money given to these schools over the years that they have not spent on educating children. Some claim they've got long-term building projects on the go, but on the whole, I think it is a scandal of the first proportion that something like £11 million of Barnet Council taxpayers' money is sitting in school bank accounts, earning 1% or 2% or whatever else it's earning. And I've always had that position for many years.
Chairman, I take your point on the education budget has been ring-fenced and schools about that being largely untouched by the cuts. Whether that's right or wrong, it's not in our power to look at that, I would suggest. But you heard about the early intervention work earlier on, and in that intervention work, we're working with the London Academy as a sort of pilot to see what we can do with schools. So I would argue that some of the early intervention work that Children's Social Care is doing benefits schools and helps them get their grades up, because if you've got a child with problems at home, that's going to affect their grades, and if we're working with the school to fix those problems, then that will help their grades as well, and their performance and all the rest of it, and so we need to be able to persuade the schools to work with us for the good of the child and the family, and the balances then in that discussion can come up. But that's where I would suggest that we go with that.
Councillor Moore?
Well, I've got other questions to ask, but I just wanted to proceed on the issue of school balances. My understanding, having looked at the figures, is that the school balances for secondary schools has gone down considerably from the last time I looked at it. And I'd like to clarify whether that is because those balances held by academies no longer register within that, or is it that our secondary schools have specifically spent the money? And if it's the former, that's a loss to the council, and how are you working with, or officers working with schools to ensure that they spend those balances, which you now have no influence over, in a way that is in line with your aspirations for the outcomes of those schools? And I'd just like to reflect that you talk about social services work with schools on early intervention, and one of your savings is £250,000 out of that budget.
Why we get it right, Chairman, we need to work with the schools. And I say, we hope this pilot goes well. I'm going to ask Mr. Boone to talk about the schools' balances and where the academy's technical or the technicalities. We can't touch the balances anyway.
So not to labour the point, but it's right. As more schools convert to academies, obviously those balances aren't reflected in the council's.
Council Moore's right.
Yeah, that's right.
So there hasn't been a reduction in school balances, it's just they're off the council's balance sheet.
I thought that might be the case.
I wouldn't be surprised if some went, Chair, because there was that time, do you remember when the government was going to grab them back? I wouldn't be surprised if some governing bodies thought, right, let's spend it before they do get that.
With all due respect, we've always had the opportunity to influence how schools spend that money, and actually also in capital projects to lean pretty heavily on them to contribute to those capital projects.
Mr. Lee, do you want to come in?
Yes, if I may, but of course, if they are academies, they have a degree of independence, and they are out of our remit, and I support that, that the school is the best place for these decisions to be made.
I still think school balance is a scandal. Councillor Cook.
There's a figure of over 2 million as a saving on early intervention and prevention. This is on page 25. You earlier discussion about the nature of this work, whether the preliminary work hasn't yet been approved, and yet this saving is listed here for the next financial year, and I'm just wondering how realistic it is that this large sum of money can be saved in this way on this timescale, or is this just a figure for a naked cut?
Okay, fine. Let's get this in some sort of structure. So, any other related questions to the point Councillor Cook was raised about an intervention work? In which case, Councillor Thomas, what will you do?
Whilst we've got this report today looking at really exploring in depth the early intervention work, Chairman, we have already done a lot of work on early intervention, and certainly in my quarterly performance meetings with the services, I've seen lists of all the work we've done, and basically we work with one family. Had we not, this and this would have happened. That obviously would have been quite, personal tragedies for those families, but also would have cost the council this and this. And what I've asked the officers to do is to price that in, because what the report I saw was didn't have any figures in, and so that's what that is. But these figures are based on that work and going forward and being expanded across the council. In terms of greater detail on that, I'd have to ask a representative from the service to speak to that. But I just want to say that yes, we are moving to. The report today on early intervention isn't the first time we're looking at this. We have done a lot of work on this already, and actually we're quite pioneering council in what we're looking to do.
Councillor Cook, you all right? No? Well, okay, no, don't come in if you don't need to. But right, let's take it theme by theme. So I'm looking at my pack, page 19 of Appendix A, which is social services issues. Central Service, Councillor Mitchell.
Could you just confirm to me what the last item, Neil's, the figure actually is, because it's not reproduced.
All staff are reading your papers carefully. Councillor Ashford, is the saving on Meals on Wheels?
I have a Deputy Director of Adult Services behind me. I would think that she has that figure to hand. Perhaps.
Sorry, can you also, are we re-tendering Meals on Wheels in the 13-14 year? Is that what this is saying?
Yes, we are. The figures disappeared from the spreadsheet.
So how much is the proposed saving? And how do we know what the proposed saving is if we haven't re-tendered it?
If you give me a minute, I'll look up and answer.
And while you're thinking that should answer the question, presumably we're not going to have a repeat of the Sudetso scandal.
That might have been avoided by being able to put the report in.
Yes, thank you. I think we're on the same plate of food on that. Council Interest Social Services?
Yeah, thank you. On page 20, the second item, reduction of 30 block residential beds to reflect falling admission rates into residential care and better use of the Can you, I suppose this is Councillor Rochford. My understanding was that there was an increased admission rate into residential care in Barnet. Can you?
Certainly one home has been shut in relation to that. But if I can just say, just in terms of forthcoming years in general, we are of course trying to keep more people at home rather than put them in residential settings wherever they might be.
So you're saying that 30-bed closure is an exact figure and is robust?
I'm satisfied with the information that is the case, Chairman.
That won't do for what we need to start, isn't it? That's like precisely. I'm sorry, I'm not going to your first one, Lloyd. That's a yes. Thank you. Social services, I'm still on. Councillor Moore.
Page 21, under service reduction, supporting people, reduction of contract value for generic floating, support to ensure people can live independently in their own homes. My understanding was that this, of course, was part of the justification for being able to remove the sheltered housing wardens, and as part and parcel of that. So I am slightly surprised to see it as part of your savings. Perhaps you could comment on that. Because obviously the driver is to support people within their own homes.
I can answer that in relation to this specific part or in general. Of course, there is the need for people to be supported to stay at home in general. I think we have an answer for sheltered housing anyway, in terms of how people want to be supported and how that service is provided. But if we can make savings in any part of the...
I'm going to be really rude and not with many friends and interrupt. This is a budget scrutiny process. There are specific figures for members tonight, and I'm sure cabinet members can defend those specific figures, and that's what Councillor Moore was asking. I'm afraid, Councillor Badger, that's what I want justification of. So I'm grateful if you'd address that rather than generic issues, mother and apple pie, for which we're all signed up and agreed. So Councillor Moore's asked a specific question.
For the avoidance of doubt, you predicated the changes in sheltered housing on the basis that you were putting out additional support, floating support, to ensure that people could remain within their own homes. And I now see £130,000 a year cut out of that budget, and I'm asking you what the justification for that is.
I'm satisfied that we can still provide that service with the funding savings that are within this document.
How do we actually achieve 130,000? Excuse my ignorance. What average is that? 2 or 3 staff posts, or less hours for some clients, or less clients?
Again, I look to Miss Wakeling for a specific answer to that, but my answer to that would be all of those things. Captain Tom.
Hello, I'm Wakeling, I'm Deputy Director in Adult Social Care. The supported living savings arise from better negotiations and better improved contract monitoring with our contracted supported living providers.
That's quite a lot of money to be flushing out through the contract. Perhaps we could have a right to me with some of those details, because I am genuinely concerned about this.
We, one of our key aims in finding savings is to look at those contract efficiencies. Around 80% of our spend on social care is spent outside the council in the form of individual spot placements or cost and volume contracts with providers and prevention services. And one of the ways in which we are able to maintain services to people and monitor quality is through using a range of negotiating approaches and funding calculator tools, such as the Care Funding Calculator, which was produced by the Department of Health and is used nationally to negotiate best value whilst ensuring the right level of care for people. So we use those consistently around all our purchased services, and it's through doing that you can actually flush out, to use your words, quite a significant level of savings without adversely affecting the level of care that people are receiving.
So we're quite clear that my memory of the floating support was that rather than having money invested in residential wardens, you were looking at intensive support for older people, perhaps when they were returning from hospital or where they were in a particular crisis, and that was time limited, if I remember correctly. Can I just be clear, we're not reducing the amount of time that people are getting in that process?
We're not, no.
Okay, thank you. Social services, Mr. Arm. We'll move on then from adult social services to executive services that are under my package on page 23. I've seen Councillor. Sorry, did you ask the question on Meals on Wheels? Did I miss that?
I'm very sorry, I'm whizzing through spreadsheets whilst trying to answer questions to look for it, so I promise you to try and find it.
Okay, well, if you can't find them, actually send an email to members. Councillor Schreiber?
Thank you, Chair. Under libraries, the implementation of RFID, self-service as an efficiency, is the cost saving there actually getting rid of staff? There's no saving in itself from putting in a self-service machine.
I think the restructure will mean less staff and fewer staff, and also.
It's correcting your grammar, Councillor.
Okay.
It's not a teacher.
And also we've got quite well qualified staff that perhaps qualified librarians who perhaps will be as qualified members of staff in the libraries, so therefore can pay less. So that's the restructure, Chairman.
Can I ask, how is the creation of a new landmark library, not yet open and with no data open, going to save £100,000?
The merger of North Finchley Library and the Freehan at the Arts Depot, the revenue savings would be the 100,000. So we're working to achieve that, as you know, the answer to the question at full council about where we are with that.
Yeah, but, I mean, is there really any prospects of that money being saved in the next financial year?
Yes, I think there is a real prospect, but particularly if negotiations at the Arts Depot continue and are successful, then yes.
And finally, just what are you putting in these vending machines to raise £20,000?
Don't tell Councillor Harper, it's miles of fizzy drinks. So.
Page 24.
I don't think that's a detail I would expect the member to know. Councillor Moore?
Of course, you might have taken it. Sorry, do you want to carry on?
No, if you could let me know when you find it.
Okay, well, I can only say, we've got Hind and I, we've got a little cafe there, it's beefing up the services across the libraries where people can buy refreshments, snacks.
Councillor Moore?
Well, the cabinet member might of course know because there may be a policy decision about not putting chocolate bars and fizzy drinks in, but that's a different issue. I had two particular issues. The first, you're looking to save 130,000 through the implementation of the volunteering programme. Do I assume that this means you are asking volunteers to do jobs that have been formerly done by paid staff? And secondly, the issue of the shared services partnership issue with another borough. You're looking to save £250,000 on this. Are you looking to retain who will be the lead borough on that? Will we be continuing to control our own library services, or are we looking, as with legal, to have that actually controlled from another borough?
If you can, the legal answer to this one, Chairman.
I don't think the location is crucial. The point, or what it actually does, so long as we retain control.
Okay, sorry, Andy, I don't understand 130,000 on volunteering. Well, where is that saving coming from?
Replacing existing staff.
Okay,
Since like launching.
Yes, very possible, Councillor Moore.
But part
Sorry, I'm not having banter from me, Councillor, please. Right, okay, as long as we're clear where we're going with that. Anything else on page 23? Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, there's about £275,000 to say through shared services with other local authorities. Is that figure robust, and will that carry forward?
And which services we're talking libraries?
Talking libraries, those libraries on the periphery of the borough, and if you look, particularly the back office of the libraries, not so much. Well, actually, there are talks with Brent and Enfield like that, looking at libraries across the periphery of the borough for the long term. But this is about looking at running the library service, the back office, the admin, the computer system, all that sort of thing, with other boroughs as well. The point is, all us boroughs all next to each other. We've got our library service, but we all manage it separately. It's commercial management.
Labour Brent is close to us, libraries, that's obviously sufficient. Councillor Mitchell, did I see you?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can I ask you, I understand that the council are offering Priory Park House as a potential venue volunteer-led library. Are you?
The phrase is community library, am I correct, Mr. Lee?
So I like on the cheap.
The phrase is a community library, Councillor.
I like in Bengali you say library on the cheap. So have you, presumably that is going to cost a certain amount, and where are those factored into the savings that are listed here? For example, are they counted as a reduction in the savings from the creation of the new landmark library or the Arts Depot, or where are they reflected in the figures?
I can't give you that information now.
Presumably there'll be very little cost, because we're paying the cost of the building. It's being sold. We've got the building, we have to pay the bills to the builders. Yes, we've got the books, we put a few shelves up and off we go, I think. Right, okay, anything else on that page? 24. Moving on, we are still on the, children's services 20.